You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
Good Sunday morning, everybody. I'm Scott Couch. It has been a busy past week in politics. That's what we're talking about. Also looking forward a bit. And I've got a wonderful panel to go over things. 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and all the topics of the day. Let me introduce our folks. Jasper Hendricks, Democratic strategist, chair of the Metro Fair Board. Victoria Pierce next to him, a GOP activist, very active in the Tennessee Young Republicans. Dakota Galban back with us, chair of the Davidson County Democratic Party. Great to have you, sir. Also back with us, Trace Whittam, GOP strategist and a former U.S. Senate candidate. Guys, let's wade right in. For the past, I'd say nearly a year, there's been a great effort by some people in the Metro Council and some people in the public to get the green light for Metro Police to be able to utilize private security cameras of willing businesses so that police can track things in real time, get the description of the car, the people that left the scene of the crime, that sort of thing. After Metro Council said no by a single vote back in November, and we've talked about this before, it seemed that the council was poised to say yes because the bill was rewritten and guardrails were put in to protect against the fear that somehow the Trump administration would utilize these cameras to target migrants. And then there was even an amendment added on Tuesday night that would call for an annual audit just to go over everything and make sure you were doing what you're supposed to do. And then after heated debate, I thought, we're about to get a vote I've been watching since 6:30, and now we're 3+ hours later. Somebody says, I make a motion that we adjourn for the night because of the snow, which was kind of starting in Nashville, but not yet really. And folks couldn't say, yes, let's get out of here fast enough. The result is they're going to take it up again in a couple of weeks at the beginning of the agenda. Dakota, did you hear about this? What are your thoughts on it? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. So from my understanding, this is a separate bill from the FUSIS legislation that the mayor had pushed in December. So this was a standalone guardrail bill that I suppose the council member who introduced it was trying to get ahead of or an anticipated reintroduction of that FUSIS bill. So so they want to put guardrails on this because they know that I think it's imminent. I think it's clear that a majority of the council, if a majority was there and present voting, would pass this legislation. I think it fell 1 vote short last time. So this was a separate piece that was just intended as guardrails on that.
Is it going to pass, though? I mean, do they want it? I mean, it seems like every excuse that I can fathom has been brought to bear, and your sense is they don't have the votes and they're just trying to put it off.
Yeah, well, it feels like a moot bill because the state controls the courts, the legislature, and the governor's office, so I think the state would do whatever they want to do regardless of whether
Sounds like there's a Star Trek reference in
whether or not this bill
that being resistance is futile, is that's what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Well, this the FUSIS is not just an issue that the city of Nashville is dealing with. Dallas has this program, Las Vegas has this program. I was in Reno a couple of weeks ago, and they have the program there. It's been in the works, I think, now for a couple of, since 22, and I think that right now they're examining similar guardrails to protect the privacy of people. So the issue is with the FUSIS program is that they're with public cameras, but also they have a lot of contracts with private operating cameras. And people want to know and need to know where those private operating cameras are, just so that, are they in people's homes? Are they in certain places where people are expected to have a certain level of privacy? And I think that that's where we're seeing the discussions at now. It will pass because it has worked. And I'm pretty sure that our people have talked to other people in some of those states that I have, cities that I have mentioned that are already operating the program, which is, I think they're trying to make sure that they are not making the same mistakes so that they have offered, protections that those cities didn't think about then, but they're now trying to do in order to protect a certain level of privacy.
From what I'm hearing is because of now what throwing in, let's audit it, yearly, whatever that is.
And that was new this last Tuesday.
Right, but from what I hear, rumors and people talking is that is going to change their minds now. They're more willing to pass it because of the more transparency, auditing it, yada, yada. So that's what I'm hearing from my end.
One wonders how much longer we could talk about this. It's like we've talked. We've guarded. What's your sense? You live in town.
You know, I would just say that I would hope from the discussion I heard with Councilman Johnson speaking about it on the radio. The idea is that we want safety. Safety is very important. Safety first, right? But when you do pass something like this, remember we don't want a nanny state, and these are private companies that are recording. And as we move into the digital age, you know, who has your data? Who has your face? Who has, you know, so yeah, you're in public, and yes, it helps expedite crime faster, that they can get some of this video, I should say.
Sure,
you
I
can
know
get
what
some
you mean.
video, but again, you're on surveillance.
You're showing your age there.
And
right.
so you want to be careful that we just don't create a, where government's paying private companies or doing business with private companies who are just surveilling people.
Yeah, and there are other things. There are other technologies out there also that I think that we could be taking a look at to, you know, help deter crime. Like there's also software that can detect a gunfire the moment that it happens, so that way they can pinpoint exactly where the police will get an alert the moment that it happens.
Audio triangulation,
right, and it'll take them exactly where it is, and they can be there in a matter of seconds. You know, so I think that that was some of the other arguments too. Are we taking advantage of? Or are we looking at other ways that we can help solve crime versus, you know, getting into some of the privacy concerns?
On that note, I've got to take a quick break, and we are going to take up another Metro Council matter involving safety and security. When we come back, you're watching Nashville in Focus.
You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
Before members of the Metro Council adjourned a bit early and went home because of the snow on Tuesday night, they voted in favor of a resolution. And just so you guys know at home, a resolution is just we'd like to see you do this. It's not binding. It's not a you have to. It's not an order. But it was sponsored by Metro Councilwoman Courtney Johnson, one of a handful of Republicans on council. She got a resolution passed calling for Metro Police to review the safety plan of Metro schools. Of course, this is in the light of what happened at Antioch High School a few weeks back. She had desired the same sort of legislation after the Covenant School shooting a few years ago. It didn't pass. This time it passed 27-8, and I'll let Republican have a first bite at the apple this time. Trace, why is this important? Is it important? Should Metro Police or should Metro Council play harder and demand that this be done?
Well, student safety is definitely should be top priority of our council. So bringing this to the forefront, yes. I believe this is the second time it was brought up. I think 2 years ago we had the Covenant shooting. This was first brought up. So responsibly, it was brought up again. You know, we obviously should be looking at our law enforcement, who we believe is the best around. That's why they are our law enforcement. We should look to what they propose should be done in our schools. How they go about it, you know, we should lead them. But yeah, you got to have something that kind of holds their feet to the fire, and we got to make sure that our schools are protected. So when they took the metal detectors out of the school, that was interesting. So somebody's got to do something, and a resolution probably isn't enough. You probably got to have something that sticks it, you know, codifies it, makes it a little more you must do. But certainly looking at our Metro PD and asking them for their advice and guidance is the most important thing.
My question is, how does she know they're not doing it? Just because no one told you that this is something that is not like.
And they're public schools.
Because they're public schools. You have SROs now at the schools. What do you think the SROs are doing? Yeah. You know, who do you think that they're working with? You know, and I think that, you know, when we started getting into the day-to-day, like, are we going to have a resolution where, you know, Councilwoman Courtney Johnson is going to report to us how many constituent calls that she returned today? You know, or tomorrow, you know, how many letters, how many emails has she sent out? I think when we start going into the weeds like that into other people's jobs, you start setting dangerous precedents. And so we don't know what they're doing for the safety of the children. I don't think that we should know who has the information, who knows where the plans are, who knows the exit routes. It should be, and this could be, and again, as I said, how do we know that this is not a conversation that the police chief is having with the superintendent of public schools?
I would only offer this, and I don't know for sure, but I know that when this came up 2 years ago, there was a concerted effort to collect votes to push back against this. And if you were already doing that, I'm just wondering, if I'm already doing it, I'm sure word would have gotten around. hey, we're already doing that. There's really no need for this. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, no, because some people just like they like to gain media traction. They like to, we're operating right now where politicians are more concerned with clicks and likes than actually getting actual work done.
I know what you're saying.
Well,
Victoria, take a bite at this. Take a
No,
swing.
I would agree. I can see both sides of this because I do think transparency of like opening this up, where do we stand in the safety of our kids? I think that is the big thing to dive into. But I think that does arise the question of, are the police already doing something? Are they already in this? I don't really know. So
But we are getting
curious.
closer to having an officer in every school. That's closer. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I was glad that this passed overwhelmingly, 27-8. I think Councilwoman Johnson was doing something, anything that she felt could help. When it comes to school safety, you need an all-of-the-above approach. But I think there's really only so much that the Metro Council can do at this point. I think MNPS takes school safety very seriously. I think they have some strong things in place to take care of that. But when you have a legislature that does not have policies that protect students in school, I think that plays a part in this because the problem is guns. The guns are the problem, and we don't have a legislature that is willing to address those issues.
You're talking about easy access, which has been an issue that some have criticized, primarily on the Democratic side, that they should do something about that.
Correct. We have way too many guns in this state.
Any other thoughts before we change topics on that one?
Again, I just want to know, who knows, who knows what the SROs? You put SROs in the schools. People have asked for SROs in the schools. Do you think the SROs are just standing around waiting for something to happen? No, they're probably devising a plan. They probably have a plan.
Weaknesses, perhaps.
Right, looking for things, and then they're probably coming up with their things. I think this is just another example of members of the city council who actually, again, they're more concerned about clicks and likes and want to just handle easy lifting things instead of actually taking care of issues for people.
Except, okay, sorry, just to say real quick, I do think though, we don't know for sure. Like you're saying, we hope that the police are doing something. We hope that the security, but we don't know. And I think that's what this resolution is about.
Oh yeah, I think we do know. If you have SROs in the schools, if you have police presence in the schools, what do you think they're doing? Really, honestly, what do you think they're doing? And do you really think that the superintendent of schools is just around and not thinking about the safety of the kids?
Well, there's not enough of them. Is the issue.
How do you feel? How do you feel?
some cases.
We had one incident that happened. Then everybody's like, oh well,
But one
we had
incident
this.
killed
We had
somebody.
this.
So that's
Yeah,
one
but
major.
there's a lot of worse.
That's the
There are a
911.
there are a lot of other worse things that are happening.
No, there's
to our
not.
young people. Yes,
Somebody
there
being
are.
killed in
Children?
school?
Our young people are being terrorized every day.
Look in the camera and say that's
Our
something worse
children are
than
being
killing somebody.
terrorized every day.
The Democrats
and they're
think there's
dealing
something worse than
with
killing a student in school.
long-ranging mental
On the
health
record.
issues that's going to take them through life.
It does seem that every time one of these things happens, we find that the perpetrator has mental health issues that
Right,
somehow
that's
were
the
ignored.
issue.
I hate to, but I've got to squeeze in a commercial break right here. Hate to interrupt a great conversation, but got to get to a break. We will continue things next. You're watching Nashville in Focus on Fox 17.
You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. We are shifting topics with a new segment. I want to talk about Brookmead Park, recently reopened by the city and Metro Parks after being shut down for roughly 2 years after the homeless were allowed to take it over. And the question is, okay, it's wonderful now, they've cleaned it up. Will there be a resolve on the part of Metro Police and the Parks Department to keep this from happening again? Did they learn a lesson? You said you had particular interest.
Sure, yeah. No, I think this is a huge success story for the city because the residents of West Nashville get their park back. The homeless people who had set up an encampment there have been rehoused into transitional housing. There were no Nashville taxpayer dollars spent. President Biden's American Rescue Plan dollars came and they spent.
That was our money, too.
That was, sure. Just we did use $500,000 from the federal government to create a beautiful brand new park. People can find ways to be upset about the resolution. You're always going to have people who aren't happy with 100% of what went on there, but I think it's just an all-around win for the city. And they learned in the process how to negotiate with community members and how to transition those homeless people into housing.
Got to ask them your thoughts. That's over on the west side of town, and people were very upset that the city had rules in place. They didn't enforce them, and that's why it turned into a nightmare. Do you feel that they have learned the lessons of Brookmead or no?
I mean, I don't know. I think that's That is the question in all of politics. Have
Sure.
we learned anything when their mistakes are happening? I think, for time being, right, it's a new park, it's all cleaned up, it's going to stay nice. Now, I feel like over time, are we going to fall back into old patterns? I don't know. But
They've got a fence up around the place. They closes every night, so maybe that'll help.
they still jump, if there's a way, there's a will.
It's a small park.
I think this is where we need a resolution to make sure that we see a plan.
I'm listening, sir.
We need a plan on how they're going to keep this park clean.
Do they have security?
And free. Yeah, they said they do. They said they're park
They're
police.
closing it at night.
Park police are there in
With
the
a
opening
fence.
and closing.
Do they roam it?
And they say that they're going to be there after it closes to make sure that no one goes, breaches the fence.
Slips in, yeah.
Or whatever. But, I think that this is something that maybe Courtney Johnson can do a resolution on to make sure, show us the plan. To keep the park clean.
I know they have one. I just won't claim to know.
But we need to
every
see it,
detail
right?
of
We need to see it.
We had a
That's what I'm
story in the
saying.
news, and I didn't memorize it, but I do know that it seems like maybe the parks or somebody police is starting roll call there so they can open it and close it at night. I have great hope, but we have so many other parks, and the homeless, issue is what it is.
Yeah, that's
Tracy,
an
you get
issue.
the
I
last,
would say,
last
I
mic.
guess you've got to take it from the top. The problem is Nashville is a very expensive place to live.
Yes.
If there's homeless encampments because people are getting priced out of homes and they don't have a place to stay for a night, but if you're a professional person who has a professional non-living person or non-home living person where we're just going to start an encampment, that's different. Are you even a resident of Davidson County? In that case, there needs to be a real resolution that says you don't just get to loiter, but the transition should come with helping people who are in a transition time, not I chose to do this and you're going to deal with it. I think citizens of Nashville should be upset about that, not accept that, and there should be a resolution because you can't be here like
And
that.
there are
There are
guidelines
laws.
that say you have to, you can't, stay overnight in the park. It simply wasn't enforced. The city
Right.
turned a blind eye and allowed
Because
this
they allow
to
it.
happen.
Because they
Yes.
allow it. There's a lot of Democrats down at City Hall that they,
I've
like you
heard
said,
that.
the Biden stuff. They just allow the trash on our Broadway. They allow the homeless to use the bathroom in the middle of the street. They just allow it. And I think people, the taxpayers that pay to live here, are upset about it, and they need to be, and they need to do something about
They
it.
certainly
Yeah.
were. And on that happy note, I've got to squeeze in a commercial break, another topic. When we come back, you're watching Nashville in Focus on Fox 17.
You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
Our final segment today deals with another big tent issue, and that is a warning, if you would, from the Tennessee Higher Education Commission to lawmakers about projected shortfalls in the amount of money that they have been taking in from the lottery scholarship program. Apparently, fewer tickets are being sold. If you, I guess, envision this as a large, beverage, there's a few more straws in it, including the governor's recently passed voucher plan that are going in there. And we're being warned that it could result in a $20 million shortfall next fiscal year. And $20 million sounds like a great deal to you and I, but in a $50 billion state
59.
budget. Yeah, $59 billion. You're right, almost 60. Your thoughts on this? Should we be worried about this shortfall? Because a lot of kids in our state rely on that scholarship money to help pay tuition.
I think I really don't think it's going to be a big issue. I think it's going to go through. I think
They could make it up.
yeah, honestly,
Well,
yeah.
can I jump in and just say, look, there are a lot of straws. One thing that came to my mind was the one thing that the Republican majority has bolstered on, which is debatable every year around the budget, is they talk about a rainy day fund. Well, if you don't have education money, it sounds like a rainy day. Take the money from the rainy day fund and fix the problem. So they do have the money. The budget has grown up to $59 billion. The money is there. They can find it. It's called being creative. If you're going to keep off, and here's the thing with competition in the marketplace, if we're going to offer great things like Tennessee Reconnect and the Hope Scholarship, and they'd like these new freedom choices, that's great, but you've got to get the money, and so that's why you have so many options. So you don't keep allowing options if you don't have the money to fund. So we can't fall for there's not enough money. There's always money, okay? There's just money for things that they want and don't want. And the education, helping our students is obviously top priority in the budget. You see it every year. It's just how they want to get it. So if they need $20 million just to kind of get through a year or two, I would tell them down there at the legislature, look at the rainy day fund.
Now, should they take this from the TANF fund?
Well, no. And so the thing is that some money for TANF can be used for educational purposes if done right, because it's really, TANF is designed to help low-income people.
So if you use that for the low-income portion.
So you can, right.
Okay,
So there is a way.
And there's like almost $1 billion in there.
Right, but we keep talking about the rainy day fund, and here we had the opportunity to use the rainy day fund for an actual rainstorm in East Tennessee, but they decided to take 10 care funds in order to utilize that for grants to help East Tennessee. So we're coming up with creative ways to use the rainy day fund, instead of when it actually
Jasper's
is
all
raining
about the numbers. He's got
outside.
something over here.
Right, yeah, because but they're coming up with new games. The lottery people are coming up with new games. They're coming up with new ways that people can play so that you can play online, and they're thinking that that's going to increase the sales. But it is interesting that this scholarship, this whole lottery was created to provide for scholarships, and it seems like that and I think the governor, Governor Haslam had to drive to 55, where 55% of the state was going to have some type of post high school education, type of thing. We're not there yet, So for Victoria to say that it'll iron itself out, I don't think that we're meeting the goals, the projected goals that were set when these programs were implemented. So I think they need to go back to the drawing board and take a look at this rainy day fund, and make sure that it's not money that's just sitting there that should be spent in other places.
Then
Coda,
why
I don't
are
have
we
much
not-
time, but I want to give
sure.
you an opportunity.
Yeah, so there, like you said, there are all of these straws in the Tennessee Lottery Scholarship Fund, and that is not the intention of the original legislation. Congressman Steve Cohen had an opinion piece in the Tennessean because he was the author, actually the co-sponsor of the legislation in 2004, and so this is very much his baby, and he talks about how vouchers will, bankrupt our state and at the expense of Tennessee students.
And we've seen it happen in other places. I can't believe our time is gone, but it has. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you here next week on Nashville in Focus.